The room is quiet. A candle flickers beside your bed, its flame barely holding its shape in the heavy air. Outside, the wind rustles gently against the wooden shutters, and a pot of something herbal simmers low near the hearth thick, earthy, and just a little burnt. It's one of those nights, the kind where your throat feels scratchy, your head just slightly too warm, and the smell of the air feels heavier than usual, like it knows something you don't. Tonight, you'll drift into a world where the smallest things had the power to undo lives. Not curses, not swords, but coughs, cuts, fevers, where a sneeze could be a sentence, and a splinter was something you prayed over, because in the Middle Ages, just a cold didn't exist. It was how long do you think they'll last? From spoiled ale and bad bread to open wounds washed in ditch water well, walk together through a body's slow betrayal. Not with fear, but with stillness, a quiet reminder of how precious and fragile it's always been to stay well. And if strange topics like this help your mind soften, feel free to subscribe, but only if it feels right. It'll be here, each night, with more quiet ruins from the past. You wake slowly, as if surfacing from somewhere deep and quiet. The kind of sleep that leaves your limbs heavy and your mind thick with the softness of unspoken thoughts. And before your eyes even open, you know something is different, because the taste in your mouth is wrong, not foul, not rotten, but sharp, metallic, like you've bitten your tongue in a dream or licked the edge of a rusted coin, and it lingers at the back of your throat, ghosting up behind your nose and making you swallow hard without meaning to. The room is dim. You can tell by the way the light filters through the warped shutters, pale and watery, slipping between the gaps and slanted lines that catch the dust still hanging in the cold morning air. And your blanket, the coarse wool one with the stitched edge and the worn patch near the hem, clings to your skin, not with warmth, but with damp, as if the night had drawn something out of you while you slept, and now leaves you to reckon with what remains. You shift slightly, careful not to wake the others. There are two bodies still curled near the hearth, their breath slow and visible in the chill. One of them snoring faintly, the other curled around a bundle of cloth that might be bread or might be nothing, and you sit up as quietly as you can, the weight of the day already beginning to press down on your shoulders like a hand that's always been there. You reach for the basin beside the cot, fingers stiff, joints clicking softly, and splash your face with the water that's already gone cold, its surface covered in a thin skin of silence. And when it touches your cheeks, you flinch, not from pain, but from something deeper, a sense that your skin doesn't quite belong to you this morning, that everything is a little too loud, too real, too sharp at the edges. Your mouth still tastes of iron. You swallow again. It doesn't help. You dry your face with a cloth that smells faintly of wood smoke and thyme, the same one you used yesterday and probably the day before that. And as you move to stand, your legs complain not in pain exactly, but in resistance, in that slow, dragging way that tells you your blood isn't moving the way it should, that something inside you is stirring with a rhythm you don't recognize. You dress slowly, linen tunic, worn hose, a belt that sags no matter how you tie it. Your fingers fumble at the knot. You shake your head. Try again. The second time it holds. You cross to the small window, press your palm to the wooden frame, and open it just enough to let in a breath of air that smells of damp soil and smoke and something sour. something faint and unpleasant that you can't quite name. Outside. The village is still quiet, the streets damp with last night's mist, and the sky overhead a low ceiling of gray that feels like it might settle closer if you watch too long. You hear a dog bark, far off, then silence again. You draw the shutter closed, turn back to the room. Someone stirs behind you. The boy, maybe, or the old woman who sleeps with her back to the wall. You don't look. Instead, you cross to the table, pour a cup of weak ale from the jug left over from yesterday, and bring it to your lips, hoping the bitterness will wash the taste away. But it doesn't, it only masks it, layers something sour over something sharp. And you set the cup down without finishing it. Your hands tremble slightly, only slightly, but you feel it. You think of the woman in the next cottage who died last week. It started with a cough, or maybe a fever, or maybe just a strange look in her eye. No one remembers exactly, but she's gone now, buried just beyond the edge of the field in a grave barely marked. And you try not to think about that, but the thought lingers, hovers, settles on your shoulders like the mist outside. You move to the door, push it open, step outside. The ground is soft. Your boots sink slightly with each step. The air presses against your skin like damp cloth. You make your way toward the well, slowly, not because you are tired, though you are, but because your body tells you there's no rush. That haste would only invite something worse. You draw the bucket up with a pull that feels harder than it should. The rope scratching against the stone. The pulley groaning as if it too has caught whatever it is that's beginning to grow in your chest. And when the bucket rises, you stare at your reflection in the water, not because you want to, but because you can't look away. Your face looks the same, but not quite. Your eyes are duller, your lips pale. You breathe in. The air stings slightly. You cough. Just once. Just soft. But it echoes louder than it should. You carry the bucket back slowly, the weight swaying against your thigh. Inside, the others are waking. You hear murmurs, the creak of the bench, the shuffle of feet on straw. You set the bucket down, sit again, let your hands rest on your knees. The room smells of sleep and sweat and the faint edge of something you can't name. And you close your eyes for just a moment. The taste is still there. The warmth behind your eyes is rising. And somewhere, far beneath the surface of thought, you already know. The simplest things are never simple here. Not in this village, not in this century. Not in this body that has begun to feel like a stranger. Not when even the morning feels heavy. And the breath you take does not come easy. It settles slowly, not like fire, not with the suddenness of pain, but like warmth drawn from within, blooming behind your eyes and across the top of your forehead in a way that makes you blink more than usual, makes you squint at the light that filters through the shutters even though it's soft, even though it's gray and gentle and not something that should bother you, not something that should press like this against the inside of your skull, pulsing gently with every beat of your heart. You rub your temples without thinking, fingers cool against skin that feels just a little too hot, not fevered, not yet, just heavy, like something thick has begun to move behind your face, slow and invisible and sure. The others are moving around the room now, voices low and rustling, the sound of bread being torn, boots being pulled on, water being poured into basins and splashing onto skin, and you stay where you are, seated on the edge of the cot with your hands still on your face, elbows resting on your knees. trying to decide if this is something that will pass or something that has already begun to claim you. Your breath is steady, but shallow. You swallow again. That strange taste is still there, metallic and faintly sour. And the warmth in your head does not fade, it spreads downward, into your cheeks, into your jaw, behind your ears. You open your eyes. The room tilts slightly, just slightly, as if the floor remembered to move a moment after your gaze shifted. You steady yourself with one hand against the wall. No one notices, or if they do, they say nothing. You rise slowly. The weight in your limbs has not lessened. The morning feels longer than it should. You move to the table, sit on the bench. Accept the small hunk of bread someone passes without speaking. The crust is hard, the inside soft, but dry. You chew, swallow. Feel the dryness linger in your throat longer than it should. You take a sip of water. It doesn't help. Someone says something to you. You nod. You don't know what you're agreeing to. It doesn't matter. The warmth behind your eyes presses deeper now, like it's trying to find a way out, like it's searching for a seam in your bones. The others move around you. The room shifts with noise and footsteps and morning routine. You remain still, watching, breathing, waiting. The fire crackles. Someone opens the door. A rush of cold air enters, brushes against your skin. You close your eyes again, just for a moment. The cold feels good. You wish it would stay longer, but the door closes. The warmth returns. You stand, walk toward the bucket by the hearth. You splash water onto your face again. The chill stings, but not enough. The heat inside you doesn't retreat. Your head throbs gently with each step, with each movement. You look into the polished side of the kettle hanging above the fire and see your reflection blurred, uneven, distorted by the curve of the metal. But still you, pale, eyes rimmed with something darker, skin sheened with something that looks too much like sweat for this hour. You look away, step back, sit again. The boy speaks to you, asks if you're going to the fields. You nod, lie. Maybe. He doesn't question it, just ties the laces of his tunic and slips out the door with the others, leaving the room quieter, dimmer. You're alone, for now. The warmth continues to grow, not in waves, not in bursts, but in the slow, relentless way of rising floodwater, filling every space within you until you begin to feel less like a person and more like a container for something that should not be there. You press the heel of your hand against your eye socket, trying to push it back, trying to force the heat away. It doesn't help. You stand again, slowly, step toward the door, open it, let the cold air in, breathe it deeply. Your chest tightens slightly. You cough, just once, but it echoes. You close the door. The warmth behind your eyes pulses. Your vision flickers at the edges. You light a candle, just to see if your hand's still steady. They do, but barely. The flame bends toward you. You sit again. Let your body fold in on itself. Let your breath slow. Let your thoughts drift. Something is wrong, but not enough to name. Not yet. Just the warmth, the pulse, the taste, and the knowing that simple things never stay simple here. You don't remember deciding to go. You just find yourself moving, one foot in front of the other, down the narrow path that winds between the cottages. The ground soft from last night's rain. Your boots leaving faint imprints in the mud that will disappear by dusk. And the chill air wraps around your shoulders like a damp shawl, sharp against your skin, but not unwelcome. because the warmth behind your eyes is rising again, and the cold is the only thing that still feels honest. The village is waking up, slow and hesitant, smoke drifting from chimneys, hens scratching quietly beside the road, a dog lifting its head only to rest it again, disinterested, and no one calls to you. No one meets your eyes, though a few glance sideways as you pass, as if they sense something different about your step, something off in the way your hand rests against the wall when you pause beside the well, just long enough to catch your breath, just long enough to hear your pulse in your ears. The healer's house is set apart, not far, just a little off the main path, enough to make the walk feel longer than it is, enough that it always feels quieter here, even in daylight, and the porch creaks as you step onto it, the old wood bending beneath your weight with a sound that feels older than the house itself. You don't knock, you sit. That's how it's done. If she's in, she'll come. If not, you wait. That's the rule. You breathe out slowly. Your head feels tight now, not like a clamp, but like something swelling from the inside, pushing gently against bone and thought and time. And your hands are colder than they should be, the tips of your fingers tingling slightly as if they've forgotten what blood feels like. You rest your palms on your knees. Listen. The door creaks open behind you. Her voice doesn't greet you. She doesn't ask what's wrong. She just says, "Come in." You do. The room smells of dried thing serbs hanging from beams, old leather, dust warmed by firelight, something sour, something bitter, something sharp enough to wake the back of your throat. She gestures to the stool near the hearth. You sit. She doesn't speak yet, just watches, then steps closer, lays one hand lightly against your cheek, then your forehead, then your neck. Her fingers are cool, calloused. Her breath smells of thyme and boiled roots. She frowns, not deeply, just enough. You don't ask what it means. You already know. She reaches for a bundle wrapped in cloth and begins to unroll it, jars clinking softly against one another, each filled with something you can't name: green powder, black syrup, a tangle of roots that still smell like earth, and she speaks low, more to herself than to you, as she selects 3 and measures out a bit of each into a stone bowl, grinding them slowly with the heel of her palm and the base of the pestle. The rhythm even, unhurried, steady. She adds water from the pot by the fire, mixes until it becomes something dark and thick, then hands you the cup. You drink. It's bitter, always thick. It coats your tongue, your throat, settles like a stone in your stomach. You cough once. She nods. That's all. Then she hands you a cloth, damp, clean. You press it to your face. Close your eyes. Listen to the crackle of the fire. Let the world shrink to this room, this chair, this heat. She doesn't ask about your family, or your fields, or your prayers. She only says, it may pass, or it may not. Your body will decide. You nod. That's all you can do. She brings a second cloth, soaked in something sharper, vinegar or wine or both, and presses it against the back of your neck. And for a moment, the warmth inside you pushes against it like a wave, rising, cresting, then ebbing just slightly. And you exhale, not in relief, but in surrender. She says nothing more. The light in the room dims slightly as the clouds outside thicken, and the smell of the herbs grows stronger, and the stool beneath you creaks when you shift your weight. You don't know how long you stay. Time bends in rooms like this. It folds in on itself, You leave when she says you can. You thank her. She nods. No blessing. No promise. Just knowledge. Just care. You step back onto the porch. The world is the same, but you are not. The path home feels longer now. Your breath comes shallower. The warmth behind your eyes is no longer just warmth. It is weight. It is presence. It is something that knows your name, even though you haven't spoken it aloud. You walk slowly. The village watches and says nothing. The door creaks behind you as it shuts, and the sound lingers longer than it should, echoing slightly as you make your way back toward the center of the village. Your steps slower now, heavier, as if the ground itself has softened beneath you, or your legs have begun to forget the rhythm they once knew so well. And every movement feels slightly too deliberate, like your body is asking for permission to continue with each breath. You pass the well again. The bucket sits half raised, forgotten by someone who meant to return but didn't, and the rope creaks softly as the wind pushes it back and forth. Back and forth. A lullaby of wood and tension that feels strangely close to your own heartbeat. You pause near the doorway of your home, not because you need to, but because stepping through it feels final somehow, like crossing a threshold you won't come back from in quite the same shape. And for a moment, you consider staying outside, breathing the cold morning air for as long as your chest allows. But the chill no longer soothes, it bites. You go inside. The fire has died down to soft red coals that blink slowly beneath a few stray splinters of ash. You kneel, stir it gently, add a handful of kindling, then a few larger sticks, coaxing it back into flame without words. And when the first flickers catch, and the warmth begins to creep toward your knees, you sit back against the wall and wait. The boy enters a few minutes later, cheeks pink from wind, hands tucked inside his sleeves. And when he sees you, still by the hearth, he doesn't speak. He just crosses the room, crouches beside the small table, and begins preparing the herbs parsley, mostly, bundled in twine and slightly wilted, pulled from where they hang in the darkest corner of the room. He unties the knot carefully, sets the leaves into the iron pot, adds water, suspends it above the fire. The scent rises slowly, green and bitter, faintly sweet beneath the smoke. You close your eyes. The warmth behind them has returned with more weight now, settling deep into the sockets, tugging downward, dull and insistent, and your spine rests heavier against the wall with every passing moment. The steam curls around the edges of the pot, winding upward in thin, silver strands that catch the low light and scatter it like breath on glass. And the sound of the water beginning to simmer feels louder than it should, crackling softly beneath the hum of the flames. The boy brings you a cup when it's ready, not full, just enough. The liquid is warm and sharp, and tastes of soil and wood and the shadow of something green that never saw enough sun. You drink slowly, carefully, each swallow dragging the warmth deeper into your chest, pulling it from your head for just a moment, just long enough for your eyes to open wider than they have all day. He watches you, doesn't ask. You nod. He returns to the corner, pulls the blanket tighter around his shoulders. The fire builds again, a little taller now, casting golden light across the stones and floor, flickering against the worn edges of the bench, the broom by the door, the ladle hanging on its nail. You feel your body trying to match its rhythm, trying to slow to the fire's pace. But something inside won't settle. Something deeper that stirs with every beat of your heart. You press the empty cup to your chest. Let the warmth rest there. Close your eyes again. The boy hums softly to himself. Some tune you don't know, or maybe one you've forgotten. And it drifts through the room like smoke, like fog, like the kind of silence that wraps rather than stretches. Your hands ache, your head aches, your breath is shorter now, not troubling, just noticeable, like your lungs are working harder for something they used to receive without asking. You tilt your head back against the stone. Listen to the wind outside. It rattles the shutters once, then again, then stops. You open your eyes, just to be sure. Everything is still. The boy has stopped humming. You set the cup aside. Let your hands fall into your lap. The warmth from the parsley has reached your stomach. It sits there quietly, like something that wants to help, but knows it cannot. You breathe in. The air smells of smoke, wool, and something faintly bitter. You breathe out. Your vision pulses gently at the edges. You don't speak. You don't move. You simply sit, and the fire continues to burn. The path to the market is familiar, worn into the earth by feet that have passed over it too many times to count. And though each step feels heavier now, slower, as though the world itself has grown more solid beneath you, you keep moving, your boots tracing the same ruts and dips your parents walked before you, and their parents before them. And as you walk, you notice how the morning light has softened further, as if it too is tired, hesitant, reluctant to fully rise into the day. You keep your cloak drawn tight around your shoulders, not just for the chill in the air, but for the way your skin feels thinner than usual, like the wind sees through it. Like every movement of air is a question your body no longer knows how to answer. The village smells different today, sharper, more sour. Someone's cooking turnips. Someone else has let a pile of wet straw fester too long near the back of their stall. And beneath it all is the bitter trace of smoke and the metallic edge of something unspoken, like fear soaked into wood grain. You see them before they see you, the cluster of women near the gate, shawls drawn tight, hands folded but restless, heads tilted slightly as they murmur low to one another and glance sideways at nothing, which is to say, at you. They don't stop talking when you approach. Just change the rhythm of their voices, soften the syllables, narrow their eyes slightly as you pass, and you feel their silence more than you hear their words. Feel it brush against the edge of your coat, like a shadow brushing past you in a narrow hallway. You say nothing. You keep walking. You've grown used to it. The way people look without looking. The way their questions sound like prayers, and their prayers sound like superstitions. The way they try not to wonder if you are the beginning of something larger than you, something contagious, something old. You reach the gate. Rest your hand against the worn beam beside it. The wood is rough, cold. You close your eyes just for a moment. The heat in your head is still there. It pulses now, not painfully, but steadily. You breathe in, slow. The air tastes of earth and ash. You breathe out. The boy catches up to you. His steps louder than yours, quicker, more certain. He says something cheerful. You nod. Let him believe it's enough. Let him walk beside you into the market square, where the stalls lean into one another like old friends, and the merchants arrange their meager wares with the slow precision of people who no longer expect to sell much, only to be seen trying. The baker nods at you, but doesn't speak. The tanner lifts one hand in greeting. then drops it before you can respond. You feel them watching you as you pick up a few wilted greens, as you exchange a few coins for onions that feel too soft in your hand, as you stand in the queue for salt that now costs more than it did last week and less than it will tomorrow. No one says it, but they all feel it. The sickness that doesn't have a name yet, the one that starts with nothing, with warmth, with silence, with someone who looks almost fine. Almost. You smile at the boy. Try not to sway as you stand. Try not to show how your chest has grown tight, how the light above the square stings your eyes, how the sound of the blacksmith's hammer in the distance feels too loud in your ears. You whisper something. He laughs. That's enough. For now. The whispers at the gate don't stop, but they fade as you leave, as you carry your bundle of bread and roots and bitter herbs back down the path, away from the crowd, away from the questions. Your steps are slower than they were, your breath shorter. Your body knows, even if no one else will say it yet, and the air around you carries more than smoke. You return before noon, but the light has already begun to flatten, that pale stretch of cloud-frosted sky dimming too early, the way it sometimes does when the day doesn't want to carry on, when the sun chooses not to bother pushing too far above the roofs. And as you cross the threshold and pull the door closed behind you, your knees give just a little, not buckling, not collapsing, but yielding in a way that tells you the rest of your body is beginning to understand what your head has known since morning. You set the basket down beside the bench, fingers numb from the cold, or maybe from the strain, and you rest your weight against the wall just long enough to let the spinning settle, just long enough to let your breath stretch back into rhythm. The boy moves around the room quietly, sorting the food, stacking the wood, pouring water into the pot with the small sprig of something bitter still floating from last night. You don't speak. He doesn't ask. And that, in itself, is a kindness. You sit, slowly, carefully. The blanket lies folded near the hearth, the old one with the heavy wool and the stitched hem. And when you reach for it, it feels heavier than it did the night before. Not just in weight, but in presence. As if it remembers something you've forgotten. As if it's been waiting for you to need it again. You drape it across your shoulders. Pull it close. Let it settle over your legs, your chest, your arms. It's scratchy. Always has been. But it holds heat and weight and the suggestion of safety. The fire has dimmed. The boy adds kindling. The sparks catch. The light grows. Shadows lengthen behind the bench, behind the pots hanging from iron hooks, behind your eyes. You close them, only for a moment, but when you open them again, the room feels different. Not colder, not darker, just quieter, as if the walls themselves are listening now. You shift beneath the blanket. The warmth behind your eyes has become a throb. The ache in your chest is no longer small. You draw the wool tighter, tuck your hands beneath it, curl your fingers against your ribs like you're trying to hold yourself in. Your breath comes shallow. You feel it there, the narrowing, the thinning of space inside you, like a door half shut. The blanket presses down, not unkindly, but insistently, as if it's reminding you that stillness is the only thing left to do. And so you sit and breathe and wait. The room flickers with firelight. The boy hums under his breath again. The steam from the pot twists in lazy spirals toward the rafters. Your vision slips at the edges. Not blackness, just blur, just softness. the kind that comes when the line between waking and something deeper begins to dissolve. You rest your head against the wall. Let the blanket take your weight. Let the fire speak for you. Let the day fall slowly away from your shoulders. And in the space that remains, you feel your body become very small and very far away. Evening settles without ceremony, not like a curtain being drawn, but more like a blanket slowly being laid over the roof of the world. A quiet shift in the light that changes nothing and yet alters everything. And inside the room, the fire has dipped low again, burning now in pulses and flickers, its glow dancing faintly on the underside of the table and the walls that seem to lean in just a little closer each hour. The boy has gone quiet, seated now with his knees drawn to his chest, head resting on the edge of the bench, his breath steady, his shoulders still. And you don't call to him, don't speak, because even that small effort feels like it might unspool something inside you that's better left held together. And instead, you reach for the stub of a candle kept in a shallow dish near the hearth, the one with the wax pooled so many times it no longer knows what shape it's meant to be. And with shaking fingers, you strike the flint. Once, twice, until the spark catches and the wick blooms to life with a thin, trembling flame that throws your shadow tall and narrow against the far wall. You don't rise. Just pull the candle closer. Let its light find your face. Let it see what the fire has not. Your skin is damp now. Not with sweat exactly, but with something heavier, something cooler. As if your body has begun to let go of its own warmth, one drop at a time. And you wipe your brow with the edge of your sleeve and feel the cloth come away darker than it should, wetter than it should. And beneath that is the flush hot across your cheeks, down your neck, even as your arms shiver slightly beneath the blanket's weight. You press the candle closer, hold your palm above the flame. The heat stings faintly. Not enough. Not the way it should. Your body isn't listening anymore. Or maybe it's only listening to something else. Something older. Something deeper. You lean back. Let the candle rest beside you. Watch its light play across the wall, where your shadow sits hunched and trembling. The boy stirs, shifts, pulls the blanket tighter. You listen to the soft crack of his joints as he moves, the gentle rasp of breath through his nose. He doesn't wake. Not yet. You're glad. You're not ready for questions. You close your eyes, count your breaths, each one shorter, each one shallower. Not enough to panic, but enough to notice, enough to understand. The candle flickers. Your skin gleams faintly in its glow, and in that narrow band of light, you feel like something between fever and fog. Your body more idea than form. Your edges more suggestion than boundary. And when you open your eyes again, the shadows have shifted, leaning toward you now, reaching not to harm, but to witness. You whisper something, not a word, just sound, just breath, just proof that you are still here, for now. The boy turns, murmurs in his sleep. The candle gutters, and your body forgets to shiver. Night presses close now, not in the dramatic sweep of darkness that falls like a curtain, but in the slow, silent narrowing of the world around you, as if everything beyond the walls has slipped into a hush too deep to hear, and only the breath of the house, the creak of the beams, and the faint crackle of dying embers remain to hold the shape of the world together. And somewhere beyond that dim circle of candlelight, your thoughts begin to unravel, not in panic, not in fear, But in the quiet way, dreams begin half remembered, half invented, soaked in warmth and shadow, and the strange, soft weight of not knowing what is real and what is simply echo. You lie still beneath the blanket, no longer sitting, your head resting on the folded end of your cloak, the fire low enough now that its light doesn't reach your face. And in that dimness, your mind drifts sideways, gently, like a boat cut loose on water that has forgotten the shore. And the room stretches and blurs, tilts slightly, and you blink once, then again. But the ceiling does not stay still, and the candle's flame dances too high, too long, like it's trying to leave the wick behind. A voice whispers your name, or something that sounds like it, but when you turn your head, there is no one. Only the boy, asleep with his hand curled near his chin. Only the wooden wall and the small, glassless window that looks out into nothing. And you exhale slowly. Feel the air catch slightly in your throat, not sharply, not dangerously, but like the wind hesitating at the door. You drift again, into something softer, into a room that isn't this room, a field, a church, a memory that isn't yours. You feel your feet on stone, your hand on rough wood, a breeze that smells of rosemary and blood. You see someone standing far away, then not at all. You open your mouth to call to them and forget what sound is. Then the floor returns beneath you, gentle and real, and the blanket clings to your skin like a second breath. You open your eyes. The candle has burned low. The shadows stretch long and broken across the floor. You try to sit. Your chest protests. You stay down. You stare at the door. It seems farther away than it should be. The frame feels taller. The edges dim. Something behind it waits, but not unkindly. Not yet. You close your eyes again. Let yourself drift. Let the fever fold you gently. Let the house hold you. Let the night breathe on without you for just a little longer. And somewhere, just before the dark deepens, you dream of a hollow door, slightly ajar, light slipping through the crack like smoke, and a voice low, familiar, without name says, you can stay, if you wish. And for now, you do. You don't remember falling asleep, but the air around you has changed. And when you open your eyes again, everything feels thinner, the light, the warmth, even the sound of your own breath, which now comes in soft, shallow pulls that stir the edges of the blanket but do not reach past your chest. And as your vision adjusts to the dim room, you realize the candle has gone out, the wick curled in on itself like something tired of burning, and only the glow from a few smoldering coals gives shape to the space around you. The boy is no longer in the room, or if he is hidden by shadow, and for a long moment, you don't move at all, you only listen. There are footsteps, slow, measured, not yours, not his. Someone is near. A quiet figure steps into view from beside the hearth, wrapped in layers of wool and linen, and you cannot tell who they are, only that they move without sound, their presence wrapped in stillness, and in their hand is a folded cloth, white, clean, damp. They kneel beside you without a word. Their hand is steady, their breath faint. The cloth touches your forehead. It is cold, blessedly cold, not the cold of winter wind or the chill of fear, but the pure, simple cold of water drawn from deep earth, of something older than fire. And as it presses against your skin, you feel the heat inside you push back, not in protest, but in release, as if the fever has been waiting for something outside itself to meet it, to hold it, to carry it for a moment. The cloth moves slowly from your brow to your cheek, then to your throat, and you close your eyes again, not in sleep, but in surrender. You let them touch your skin. You let them hold the corners of your breath. You feel the way your heart slows beneath that cool touch, how your body tries to match its rhythm to the hand that now rests lightly against your neck. The pressure is firm, knowing, human. You open your mouth to speak, but no words form. Only air, only sound, only the soft echo of breath in a space too quiet for answers. They dip the cloth again, press it to your chest. The linen is heavy with water. It drips slightly, runs down the hollow of your collarbone, and disappears beneath the blanket. You shiver. Once. The figure does not move quickly. They do not rush. They are not afraid. You wish you could thank them, but you know it is not expected. This is care, not ceremony. This is presence, not cure. Their face remains hidden in shadow. Their hands continue their work. You drift somewhere between waking and warmth, and the silence that stretches between you becomes something sacred, something older than language, something carried in the soft weight of linen and water and skin. The fire snaps once, a tiny echo. The coals shift, and the cloth is folded again. The figure pauses. One hand rests lightly on your chest, not for comfort, not for healing, just acknowledgement that you are still here, that the night is not yet finished. And then they rise, and they go, as quietly as they came, and the room is still. You lie there, beneath the blanket that has grown heavier, beneath the air that tastes faintly of ash and rosemary, and in your chest, something small holds on. Not strength, not will, just breath, just enough. The scent reaches you before anything else does. Faint at first, like something remembered from a different room or a different season. But it grows slowly, curling through the edges of the house with the strange precision of something meant to be noticed. And you know it before your eyes open, before your lips part, before your breath shortens slightly in recognition, not fear, not discomfort, just memory. The way you know the difference between dust and dirt, between steam and smoke, between the ordinary and the intentional. Vinegar, sharp and bright, cutting through the dim air like a blade you cannot see. And beneath it, something softer, older, darker ash, but not from the hearth, not from wood that warmed the room. This ash carries the ghost of linen, of herbs, of something burned not for heat but for hope. The healer has been here again, or someone like her, someone carrying bowls and cloths and the quiet resignation of practiced hands. You do not hear them now. The room is still, but the scent lingers, soaked into the stones, the wool, the air between your ribs. You open your eyes slowly. The candle is gone. The coals have fallen silent. Only the softest glow remains, and in its faint light, the corners of the room seem farther away than they did before. Not gone, just blurred, like something out of reach. You try to lift your arm. It rises, but slowly, like it must travel through more than air. The blanket is still over you, damp now, or maybe just heavy with everything it has absorbed. Your body feels like a vessel warm in places, cold in others, breath catching slightly in your throat, like something that arrived without permission. You inhale. The vinegar stings. Your eyes water just a little. You exhale. The ash settles deeper. There's a cloth folded neatly on the stool beside the hearth, a bowl beneath it. Someone has been caring for you in silence, in absence, in a kind of devotion that does not ask for your name, only your presence. You close your eyes again. Let the scent tell you what it will. It speaks of purification, of attempts, of effort, of the space between ritual and remedy, between faith and flesh. And in that moment, you are neither sleeping nor waking, neither healed nor fading, simply here, somewhere beneath the surface of things. Your mind begins to drift, not outward, but inward, to the quiet between your breaths, to the space behind your eyes. You see shapes, not clear, not frightening, just forms, the edges of dreams that never fully formed. Memories that do not belong to you, but feel real all the same. A courtyard, a spoon, a patch of time growing through stone. The way the light looked the last time you felt truly well. And in the distance, a fire, controlled, contained, but burning. The scent of vinegar draws you back, grounding, anchoring. You open your eyes again. You are still here, still wrapped, still listening. You hear footsteps outside, a murmur, a shift of weight. Someone checking the door, but not entering, not yet. And the house holds its breath, and you hold yours. And then the footsteps fade. You are left with the scent, with the weight, with the silence. And though your chest aches now with every rise and fall, though your limbs lie still as if listening for instruction, you feel something calm settle into the room with you. Not comfort exactly, not clarity, but a kind of understanding. This is the in-between. This is the breath before sleep, the hush before sound, the stillness before change. You are not alone, but no one needs to stay. And in that, somehow, there is peace. There is a point, somewhere between the fourth and fifth breath of a cold morning, when you forget what day it is, not because you've lost count or been asleep too long, but because the passing of time no longer seems interested in you, no longer holds you in its rhythm. And as you lie there beneath the heavy wool that now feels like part of your body, fused to your skin by hours of sweat and silence, you begin to notice that even your own name has grown distant, not vanished, just softened, like something seen through frost-covered glass or heard underwater, still present, but blurred at the edges, too far back to reach without effort. And in truth, you don't feel the need to reach for it. It's not that you've forgotten who you are, it's that you've drifted beyond needing to remember. The boy enters again, quiet as always, his footsteps familiar, and yet even he feels like a stranger now, not unkind, not frightening, simply distant, like someone from a dream you almost recognized. He kneels beside the fire, adds a stick or two, stirs the coals until they glow, and you watch him without speaking, too tired to move, too hollow to shape words. He looks at you, pauses, says your name, softly. The sound lands gently in the air between you, and for a brief second, something in your chest stirs, not pain, not warmth, just motion, like a thread being tugged at from the inside. You blink, try to answer, but all that comes is a slow breath that rises, then falls. He nods, as if that's enough. Maybe it is. He wets a cloth, dabs it against your forehead. The touch is kind, but it no longer startles. It just is. A motion in a room, a moment that belongs to both of you, but demands nothing. Your gaze drifts toward the rafters. They've always been there, those dark beams that hold the house together. Silent, steady, bearing weight without complaint, and for the first time, they seem impossibly far away, not physically, but in spirit, as if they are part of a different world, a world still anchored to days and names and work, a world you have almost stepped out of. You hear voices beyond the wall, not loud, just murmurs, familiar shapes of sound, a neighbor, maybe the healer, maybe the priest. You can't tell. You don't want to tell. The words don't matter anymore. Only the tone, the hush, the worry, the distance. Someone says your name again, this time further away, this time followed by silence. You wonder if it will be the last time, not in fear, just in fact. You turn your head slightly toward the sound. The effort feels like moving through thick cloth. The boy returns to your side, offers water. You take it. A few sips. Cool. Faintly metallic. Not unpleasant. Not enough. He watches you again. His face is pale in the low light. His eyes wide. Not afraid, just unsure. And you want to say something kind. Something to comfort him. Something to let him know you're still here. But the words float somewhere behind your teeth and do not find their way out. So instead, you breathe, in and out. And that is your answer. That is enough. The fire crackles. The cloth is wrung out. The shadows climb a little higher. And your name, once a thing you wore with certainty, now feels like a cloak folded on the bench by the door, waiting to be worn again. Perhaps tomorrow. Perhaps never. You close your eyes. Let it be. Let the silence grow. Let the names go. There are other things to remember now. Other things to hold. The sound of the kettle. The warmth of the wool. The flicker of light on the wall. And the boy's voice, faint as it is, still speaking, still saying your name, even if you no longer need it, even if you no longer answer. The day is fading again, and you know this not by the light, which has barely shifted since morning, nor by the temperature, which remains steady in its chill, but by the sound, faint and slow, and carried by wind that does not touch your skin, but finds your ears all the same. The church bell ringing once, then again, each strike spaced wide enough to make you wonder if it's truly real or simply a memory you've conjured, something placed in your mind to mark time you no longer feel passing. And yet it rings again, steady now, like a pulse outside your own, steady and slow and strangely kind. And for a moment, you wonder what hour it is. But the numbers feel distant, less important than the fact that something is still moving in the world beyond your walls, that someone has remembered to mark the day, to lift the rope, to let the sound fall across rooftops and fences and paths, like a reminder that breath is still being counted. The boy looks up when he hears it. His eyes meet yours, just briefly. And though neither of you speaks, the moment holds something shared, a recognition that the world outside has not stopped, even if yours has slowed, that the bell still calls, still rings, not just for mass or for mourning, but because that is what it has always done. You close your eyes again, not from weariness, though it lingers always now, but from the quiet need to rest against something steady, to fold into the rhythm of something that expects nothing from you but presence. The bell sounds once more, softer now, thinner, fading into the folds of wind that pass over the rooftops, and the silence that follows is deeper because of it, not empty, but full, like a room that has just heard a story and is still holding its breath. The boy has begun to hum again, something you don't recognize, something low and circular, a tune with no real beginning or end, and it fits the hour, the hush, the heat behind your eyes that no longer burns but glows like coals in a bed of ash. Your breath is slower now, not labored, just tentative, each inhale like a question, each exhale a gentle answer. Your hands rest beside you, palms open, as if waiting for water or wind or prayer. And in that stillness, the sound of the bell comes again. Faintest now, almost imagined, like the ghost of its echo reaching back toward you through the folds of air. And though your eyes remain closed, you see it tall and narrow. The tower stone darkened with lichen and rain. The rope swinging in a rhythm older than anything else in the village. And a hand, steady and unseen, pulling gently, faithfully, calling not just the living, but all who remember what the sound means. You breathe in, you breathe out, and the sound stays with you, even when the ringing ends. There is a sound that follows the crackle of fire once it begins to die. Not silence exactly, but something softer. Something that pulls inward rather than outward. Like breath at the end of a long exhale. Like the way fabric settles after someone rises from a chair. And you notice it now as the last of the embers dim beneath the blackened wood. No longer pulsing with flame, but glowing faintly from within. Like the last thoughts before sleep, or the way memory lingers in the corner of a room after a voice has gone still. And you lie motionless, the weight of the blanket unchanged, the scent of vinegar and ash still thick in the air, but the warmth of the hearth no longer reaches your skin. And for the first time since the light began to fade, you feel the cold begin to rise, not sudden, not sharp, just a slow unfolding, like fingers trailing up your spine, gentle, curious, inevitable. The boy is asleep now. You can hear the rhythm of his breathing, a little faster than yours, a little younger, and that, somehow, is comforting. There is still breath in the house. There is still someone here to hear the wind rattle the shutters, to mark the passing of the hours. You shift slightly, the movement small, your body too weary for more, but enough to feel the fabric beneath your shoulder, rough and cool and familiar. And you wonder not, for the first time, how long you've been lying here. How many days or nights have passed beneath the same ceiling? How long since you last stood, unaided, or heard your own name, spoken without hesitation? The fire gives one last crack, a small pop, like something surrendering, and then it falls still. The room darkens further, the edges blur. There are no candles lit, no coals left to coax, only the thin blue-gray of moonlight where it seeps through the wooden slats, where it lands like a breath across the floorboards and disappears before reaching you. You listen, not for anything in particular, just because listening feels like the last thing left to do. The walls do not speak. The beams above do not creak. The only sound now is the rustle of wool against skin, the echo of your own heart slowing by degrees. And in that hush, your thoughts begin to drift not backward, but downward, into something deeper than memory, into the marrow of yourself, where names no longer matter and time does not move forward, and you see, without sight, the shape of your mother's hands, the bend of your father's back, the flash of a summer sky too bright to look at, and you feel, not with touch, but with something older, the way it felt to be small, to be carried, to be held in arms that knew nothing of the future, but everything of the present. And you let that feeling rise, just for a moment, just long enough to forget the ache in your ribs, or the tremble in your limbs, or the fire that no longer warms your skin. You breathe in, slowly. The air is cold now. You breathe out. It leaves a trail on the air, just visible. The boy stirs once, then settles, and you remain. Still, soft, dimming gently, like the fire before it sleeps, you wake, if waking is the right word, to a world that has not yet decided whether it is day or night. A world that hovers in that narrow space between gray and not gray, where the sky outside still holds its breath and the wind has not yet stirred the leaves from their stillness. And though your eyes open, there is no sudden clarity, no fresh light breaking through the cracks in the wooden walls, only the same soft gloom that settled over you hours ago, maybe days, time having slipped from your grasp like water through fingers too tired to hold. And as your gaze adjusts, you begin to see the outline of the room once more, the low ceiling with its beams drawn dark against the dimness, the corner where the broom leans, the small shelf where the clay cup rests beside a folded cloth, and beside it, the boy, still curled on the floor, his face half hidden beneath the corner of the wool blanket he must have pulled down sometime in the night. The slow rise and fall of his shoulders, a quiet rhythm that steadies you more than your own breath does. You try to move, not far, just enough. A shift of shoulder, a slow turn of the head. The stiffness is worse now, not sharp, but thick, as though your limbs have absorbed the weight of the room, the silence, the fever, and your breath catches slightly on the edge of your ribs, not from pain, exactly, but from the strange effort of being. You lie still again. Let the moment pass. Let the body decide whether to continue. The air smells faintly of smoke and wool, and the remnants of the vinegar that still lingers on the cloth draped over the stool. No fire has been lit, no kettle boiled. The house sleeps still, even as your eyes stay open. Somewhere outside, a rooster calls, not urgently, not loudly, just once, then nothing. A sound not meant for you, not anymore. The light does not grow brighter. It only shifts, imperceptibly, as if morning is not arriving so much as remembering to exist. You watch the boy stir. He stretches, slowly, like someone trying not to wake fully, then sits, rubbing at his eyes with the heel of one hand, looking toward you before he even looks toward the door, as if your presence is the thing that tells him where he is. He stands, crosses to the hearth, kneels, stares into the cold ash. He doesn't speak, just begins the motions, reaching for the bundle of kindling, the split wood beside the wall, the flint and steel kept tucked beneath the broken tile near the stones. You listen to the sound of the strike, the scrape, the soft puff of breath as he coaxes flame from spark. It takes longer this time. His fingers are slower, his shoulders tighter. The kindling resists, then catches, and the smallest tongue of flame flickers upward. Unsteady, thin, he cups it with his hands, shields it, feeds it, and slowly the fire begins again, not with crackle, not with heat, but with the whisper of light against the floorboards, the suggestion of warmth not yet felt. He glances at you. You blink. That is enough. He fills the kettle, places it near the flame, adds herbs. The scent is faint. Fennel. Maybe mint. Maybe something else he doesn't name. You hear the liquid begin to shift. Not boil. Not yet. But move. And you let your eyes close again. Not to sleep, but to listen better. To remember the shape of morning when it carries no light. Only sound. Only the breath of someone trying. Only the fire refusing to stay cold. Only the world, dim though it is, still unfolding. 1 minute, one breath, one flicker at a time. You don't see him move. Not at first, but when you open your eyes again, he is there beside you, crouched low, knees bent in the way that children can manage without effort, his hands folded in his lap as though unsure of what to do next, and the fire behind him casts a thin outline around his shoulders, not enough to chase the cold from the corners of the room, but enough to draw warmth back into your breath, enough to make the air feel like something you can still carry. And for a long moment, neither of you speaks, neither of you moves. And then his hand reaches forward slowly, as if asking permission from the space itself, as if touching you now might unmake the silence. And when his fingers rest lightly on your wrist, they do not shake. Not even a little. Not like yours once did when he was small and burning with fever, when the nights were long and the gods far away, and you sat with a cloth against his forehead and wished for something stronger than your own hands to pull him back from the fire inside him. You remember that now. Not clearly. Just the shape of it. Just the heaviness in your arms and the way you spoke his name again and again, like it was both a prayer and a promise. His hand is warm, firm, steady. He feels for the pulse. You wonder if he finds it. You do not ask. He places a second hand on your chest, not pressing, only resting, as if anchoring you in place, as if telling your body it does not need to drift just yet. And you breathe slowly beneath his touch. Feel the way your ribs stretch and return, how your heart ticks beneath skin that feels too thin, too quiet. He stands, moves to the table, lifts the cloth from the small wooden bowl. You watch him crush something between his fingers, drops it into the cup, pours water, stirs. The scent is strong bitter, dark, something sharp, like bark, like ground root, like medicine that remembers being part of the earth. He returns, kneels again, lifts your head just slightly, feeds you in small, patient sips, never hurried, never spilling. You drink what you can, let the rest fall back into silence. He sets the cup aside, wipes your mouth gently, folds the cloth, places it back on the bowl. His hands do not tremble. They move with the kind of care that comes only from memory, from watching, from years of unnoticed repetition, from all the times you held the knife steady at the table, or the yarn taut between your fingers, or the door closed against wind that would not stop crying. He does not speak. You do not need him to. There is something stronger than words here, something older, a kind of knowing that exists only between two bodies that have shared the same silence, the same hunger, the same nights where sleep would not come. He takes your hand again, holds it loosely, like it belongs there, like it has always belonged there. And for a moment, you do not think of the pain in your chest, or the pressure behind your eyes, or the quiet that presses more firmly with each breath. You think only of this hand, warm, alive, unshaken, and you let yourself feel held, just that, held, and nothing more. You can feel it before you notice it. The light has shifted again, but not in the usual way, not in the slow brightening that signals morning, or the dim fading that signals dusk, but in a strange, pale absence that seeps through the walls without color, without shape, as if the sky itself has forgotten how to be. And when you turn your head toward the small window near the corner of the room, you expect to see the familiar slats of gray, or the faint outline of trees swaying softly beyond the beams. But there is nothing now, not darkness, not daylight, only a soft, unspoken blur, a fog of light without a source, and you blink once, then again, and still the window does not show the sky. It shows nothing. It holds nothing. And somehow, that nothing feels more full than anything you've seen all day. The boy notices. He glances toward it, lingers there with his eyes for a moment too long, says nothing, returns to his work. He moves slower now, not from laziness or fatigue, but with the care of someone trying not to disturb what cannot be named. He stirs something in a bowl, tears small pieces of bread with his hands, sets them on a plate, and leaves it untouched near the fire. Not because you asked, not because he thinks you'll eat, but because doing so makes the room feel less empty. Because pretending is sometimes as close to comfort as the body can bear. You shift beneath the blanket. The wool no longer holds warmth, only weight. Your limbs feel more distant than before, not numb, not gone, just quietly withdrawing. The way light draws back from a room when the door closes slowly and no one speaks. Your breath is there, but smaller, shallower, like something meant to be heard only by the space around you, not by the people inside it. You try to speak. Nothing comes. But that, too, feels expected now. The window holds your gaze. It doesn't change, doesn't flicker. The world beyond has folded in on itself, not cruelly, just gently, like a page being turned by hands that no longer wish to read. You close your eyes. The fog remains. The silence deepens. The boy sings, softly, not a song meant for celebration or mourning, but something in between, a lullaby, perhaps, or a prayer. Something passed down by those who knew how to move through rooms like this one, who knew how to sit beside a stillness without fearing what it meant. The sound wraps around you, carries you a little further inward. You open your eyes again. The window still shows nothing, but that nothing no longer frightens you. It simply is, like breath, like wool, like the quiet sound of someone singing for you when you cannot sing for yourself. The house has grown quiet in a new way, not with the silence of sleep or the hush of early morning, but with a fullness that stretches between each breath, a kind of stillness that comes only when everyone inside has agreed without words that nothing more needs to be spoken. And you lie beneath the blanket, your eyes half closed, not because you're tired, though you are, but because keeping them open feels like too much work for too little return. The light in the room too dim to offer clarity, and the shapes too familiar to require your gaze. And somewhere beside you, the boy sits, not close enough to touch, but near enough that his presence anchors you. And though neither of you speaks, there is a conversation unfolding, one built of glances and gestures, and the soft repetition of breath shared in the same room. And in that space between you is everything you both understand, but will not name. He dips a cloth into water again, presses it gently against your wrist, and when the coolness touches your skin, it doesn't startle anymore, it just settles, as if reminding your body that it's still here, that there are hands that remember how to care. Even when the world is falling inward, you feel the damp thread, a path along your arm, trailing into the hollow between bone and cloth, and your eyes drift to the ceiling, to the place where the beams meet, to the cobweb that no one has cleared. And you think about how many winters have passed beneath those rafters, how many mornings began with the scraping of bowls and the sound of laughter, however brief, and how many nights ended with wool pulled tight and firelight flickering against the walls. You remember none of them clearly, only their shape, their warmth, their rhythm, The boy speaks your name, quietly. You blink. That is your answer. He doesn't ask questions. He doesn't need to. Everything he wonders lives in the way he looks at you, in the way he sets the bowl down with care, in the way he smooths the edge of the blanket each time it slips too low. There are no stories told aloud, no reassurances, no promises, just presence, just nearness, just the weight of what isn't said, filling the room with something heavier than grief, something softer than fear. He hums again, not the same tune as before, but close, a variation, a memory reshaped by necessity, and you let the sound wrap around you like the corner of a cloak worn smooth by time. You think of what you might have said days ago. Had your voice been stronger? Had your body been more certain? And you realize that none of it would have changed this moment. That love lives just as well in silence. That farewells do not need to be spoken to be understood. That the heart, even as it slows, knows how to hold what matters without speaking. He reaches for your hand again, holds it gently. You do not squeeze back, but your fingers curl slightly. That is enough. The fire hums low. The wind outside has stilled. The window shows no sky, only the outline of another wall. And inside, there is no fear now, only the soft rhythm of a boy's breath, the weight of wool, and the quiet understanding that no more words are needed. The light does not change, not really, but you feel something shift in the bones of the house, a quiet turning inward, like the moment just before a room exhales. And though the walls remain in place and the fire still whispers in its shallow bed of coals, there is a difference now that does not belong to the senses, only to the space between them, as if the very air has begun to forget that you are here, not cruelly, not as a rejection, but as an easing, a loosening of the threads that tie your breath to the things around you. And you lie still beneath the blanket that no longer feels separate from your skin, your hand resting where the boy placed it, your eyes half open and filled with the dim flicker of motion that no longer resolves into meaning. The boy has fallen asleep again, curled near the hearth, his fingers still marked with ash and water, his body angled toward you like a question that no longer needs to be answered. And in the hush that follows the fire's last sigh, you hear nothing but the soft rhythm of his breath and the delicate settling of dust on wood. And for a moment, you wonder what the room will feel like tomorrow, whether the sun will find its way through the cracks in the boards, or whether the window will remain blank, and whether he will rise before dawn to relight the fire, to sweep the floor, to wash the cloths that carry your scent. And you wonder if he will speak your name aloud or only think it, if he will whisper it into the corner of the room as he works, or carry it quietly behind his eyes as he steps outside into the thin morning light. You do not know. You do not need to know. There is a stillness now that goes deeper than rest, deeper than silence, something like the hush between two waves, or the moment when a candle, newly snuffed, leaves a trail of warmth in the air before cooling to smoke. And as you breathe, slower, thinner, lighter, you feel the shape of the house settle without you, not erasing, just softening, just remembering what it was before you filled it with your motion and your voice and your weight. And you feel how the wood remembers being only wood, the blanket only wool, the room only space, and your body, once so loud with effort, so loud with living, grows quieter still. The fire dims further, The boy does not wake, and though your eyes no longer blink, they still see not with light, but with something older, something deeper, something that looks at the room not as a place to survive, but as a place to rest. You feel the door, closed. You feel the roof, holding. You feel the bed, bearing. And slowly, gently, without any struggle at all, the room forgets your breath, forgets your fingers, forgets the weight of your name, not in absence, in peace, in full, quiet peace.